This is the talkSPORT Daily Podcast. Welcome to your home of the Six Nations. I'm your host, Alfie Reynolds.
And I'm former London Irish and England winger, Topsy Ojo.
So the fallow week has been and gone. We are rested, we are ready to look ahead to round 4. All the storylines coming up on this week's episode. We'll look back on some huge results in round 3 and throw it forward to all of the action this weekend. Topsy, good to see you. What did you do with your rest week? Are you back, kind of, the body's not sore anymore, you're good to go?
Just about. I think so. Definitely needed a breather after what was a very hectic round 3. More time at home this weekend, which was nice. But yeah, we're going to finish with a flourish. Of course, Rome coming up, Paris for the final weekend. So probably a well-timed rest. What about you?
More time at home means running around the country.
Yeah, more jobs. It is. It's like, you're home, you don't have work, so all of this needs doing, and the kids need to be here. So, but yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, mine was something similar. Less work, but I don't feel any better rested. I'm going to be totally honest with you. But look, as we said, loads to get into. This is your front row seat to the Six Nations. Let's get into it. So just a reminder for the results from round 3. Feels like ages ago now, Topsy, doesn't it? But England 21, Ireland 42, Wales 23, Scotland 26, and France 33, Italy 8. We'll maybe chat about those games in a little bit of detail in just a moment. How important do you think the fallow week is this year, Topsy, on the teams that have used it to their advantage? Because there are loads of different teams. We can talk about England and 2 bad defeats. You can talk about Scotland or Ireland and a couple of wins and a bit of momentum. The teams that use this period the best are going to be the ones that put themselves in the best position come the end of this championship. Yeah,
it's absolutely crucial. You know, the players and the coaches knew what was coming going into the tournament with the new format. Depending on where you sit now, you can make a real plan of attack. So, you know, if you're France sitting pretty at the top of the table, things are working well, we're in a good spot, but we don't take our foot off the pedal. We want this Grand Slam. If you're in England, for example, you're licking your wounds a bit more, thinking about how things have turned around in the 3 rounds, but also challenge accepted. You know, let's go after these 2 games and, you know, shut out some of the noise that's coming in left, right and centre. If you're in the middle, Scotland and Ireland, you're thinking, what an opportunity. From the doldrums of week 1 to actually it's back in our hands. Win your 2 games and you're in with a shout at the championship. So all those different narratives mean that coming into this round 4, like, everything's quite well poised for the remaining 2 weeks.
As you've run through there, I think you can make a decent case that there isn't a single team that the fallow week came at a bad time for, because there was only one this year. I think everyone, you could make the case that it was a good time. But if I was to press you, who would you say it came at the best time for?
The best time, definitely England. I think, like I said, off the back of 2 pretty damaging losses, just a chance to get away, reset and come again. Almost say that, look, we came into this tournament in a good place. The 2 losses don't erode everything good we did in 2025, but it's important that we get back on the horse. Out of everyone, I'd probably say them. Yeah, worst time, yeah. You'd almost think, it's weird, I know we'll get into this later, but you'd say Italy, who have lost 2 games, everything still seems positive around them, but they're probably thinking, look, you know, we don't want to become plucky losers. We actually want wins on the board to support all the work that we're doing.
I guess with Italy, you'd say that maybe they don't have quite the depth, you could say, for Wales as well. So actually a week off to recoup and regenerate may be a good thing as well. But I think it is quite intriguing. From the England point of view, I totally get what you're saying in that, look, 2 awful performances, awful results. You take stock, you kind of take a minute, but then I suppose also a bit of a malaise can seep in as well. So just how Steve Borthwick and those coaches, I think, have dealt with that week off the back of that result, I think is intriguing. We'll see what they look like against the Italians. Before we get into everything else, though, big news this week. Have you seen this about the Six Nations Trophy?
Yes, I saw it on the way in. I was like, really? Come on.
So the Six Nations Trophy has been damaged in an incident. Apparently it was in transit in a vehicle. I'm a bit confused by this, Topsy, and to be totally honest with you, no Six Nations Trophy this year. They're going to be using a replica. So when whoever wins it, whether it's France or Scotland or Ireland, whoever it is, it's going to be a replica trophy that they're hoisting.
I know. I mean, I guess we had no news to talk about, given it's been a week after the actual matches. So headline news this week is replica trophy. At least no one was hurt.
I was scratching my head earlier when I heard it on talkSPORT and thought, really? We don't. The trophy's no good. But there we go. They're going to be making a new trophy. So don't fear. Look, let's get on to the action on the pitch. And I know it was a while ago now, but we haven't seen each other since England 21, Ireland 42. We said the week before losing to Scotland wasn't an issue in itself. It was the manner of the performance. and we could copy and paste those comments once again, can't we? We know Ireland can be a good team, and they were excellent. Let's give them their flowers. But how alarming has England's performances in those 2 games been? And particularly now the fact that you've got it in back-to-back matches.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you could have taken the Scotland game in isolation, Calcutta Cup away from home with all the weight of history and everything, and said, okay, you know what? Most teams have had that in the tournament now, so let's see the response. The fact that the issues they had in Scotland were replicated the week after, the fact that, as the players have admitted to now, just that lack of energy, lack of intent, being a percentage or 2 off, you're just coming off the back of a loss. You're back at home, your own supporters, the chance to get your tournament back on track, and it just doesn't materialise. And then you think, right, okay, the kicking plan didn't work, but actually you created enough opportunities to score points early on to take pressure off yourselves. You don't do that, then you start making basic mistakes, your set piece falls apart, discipline goes, error count is through the roof, and even for the best players, you're looking around going, where are the answers? And they just weren't there. I know a lot of the noises that we heard in the fallow week and this week from the England camp has been actually they've got themselves into position to score points again. They just haven't been. If you compare it with the autumn when they were winning games and beating the All Blacks and all that sort of thing, their amount of times they're getting into the opponent's 22 is really similar. The difference is they're not coming away with the points. Do you subscribe to that as that being the root cause? And I think Steve Borthwick spoke about it and said that they got into the 22 early on against Ireland, didn't take their opportunities, then they're behind on the scoreboard and they're compounding errors. Had those opportunities maybe gone their way and they scored, it would be a very different game. Do you buy into that, or do you think there are bigger issues here than purely not taking points early on in the game? Yeah, it's an interesting one. They're not the root cause, but it has a massive impact because you actually, if you're better with the ball, you spend less energy defending. So you're not trying to rectify your own mistakes. It's right, we've had the ball, we've scored 7. We've had the ball, we've scored 3. So something I picked up in the fallow week, that France have had to make the least tackles in the tournament. Why? Because they're just busy scoring points. So actually, you lift up your energy when you're on the ball, when you're attacking, when you're scoring. It's just a much better place to be in. And like I say, you're fresher to then make those tackles. You're less likely to make mistakes. There's less pressure on your set piece. So it does have a massive impact. And when people talk about energy and intent, the players are all fit. They all score highly on any fitness test you want to give them. But energy and momentum through a game have a massive part. And when you're constantly going back to a scrum because you've dropped the ball, constantly retreating, those take energy away from the bits of the game that you want to do, which is scoring points. So it has a knock-on effect, but conversely, the other team are trying to do the same thing. So if you fluff your lines on attack, you've still got to front up and defend. You can't have really bad system errors, which is what England had. They were too easy to get around, then too easy to get through. So all of a sudden, we've not done that much wrong, but if 3 of you have missed tackles, you're under your sticks. So then it compounds.
I mean, it's funny, isn't it? You can always rely on Ellis Genge to be able to give you a pretty honest assessment after a game, and he came out and said we believed our own hype, which is, I love the honesty. I think it's quite alarming for what that maybe says about this team. And look, if we've learned anything from this Six Nations, it's that a whole lot can change for a team in 1 or 2 games. So who knows? Maybe from where we're sat here, England go and do the job against Italy, do the job against France, as ridiculous as that seems at the moment given the performances we've seen. But we can only analyse what we've seen and the evidence we have, which sitting here now, are 2 really concerning England performances, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Ellis is always honest, he's brilliant, but I'm actually surprised he said that because... I mean,
he was a lot stronger than anyone else from the England camp, by the way.
Yeah.
I was actually... Do you know what? I was kind of hoping, and look, you'll speak to... You'd have been there pitch side and chatting to Steve Borthwick. I was hoping that we got a stronger reaction from Borthwick after the Ireland game. I get it after the Scotland game. It's a one-off game. You'd won 12 in a row before that. You protect your players. But it happening again at home, I was hoping we might see Steve Borthwick come out and almost be like what Andy Farrell was like after the France game at the start of the Six Nations, where he said, that's totally unacceptable. I get they're different characters, they're different personalities. You can't change who someone is. I didn't think Steve Borthwick was strong enough after the Ireland game on how poor that performance was, personally.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe he did that in the changing room. And then when he actually came out and spoke to the media, he'd given himself time to compose himself, get what he wanted to say correct. and then kind of lay it out that way. I think if he'd maybe done it on full time, we might have got a different response. But again, the players have spoken about honesty and saying, look, we've gone through the video, we've looked at what is completely unacceptable, we've called each other out, and we'll be demanding that sort of response. But yeah, just on the Ellis Genge thing, I don't know if maybe you did. I didn't take it as hype. I just thought that actually coming into the tournament based on form and where they were the form team coming in. So
100%.
Well, all the fans want to hear, we want to go and win it, but we do understand that you got to beat Wales, then you got to go to Scotland, X, Y, and Z down the line. But who knows? I mean, Ellis Genge tells it, so who are we to say he's saying it wrong?
Yeah, well, to be fair to Ellis Genge, I think he was probably saying that all of that praise and they were spoken about in the title conversation rightly because of their run of form, that maybe they had started to buy into it and believe in that. What I think I have found again a little frustrating is the line from England that, well, everyone was saying that we were this great team and we were never as good as we were.
That was Steve's line.
and he was saying, he was doing the whole, everyone was saying we were this great team and we knew we weren't the finished product and we're not as bad as people are saying now. And I find that so funny, because what are you saying? That when you were winning 11 games in a row, you didn't want people to be praising you? I don't think anyone was saying England were the best team in the world.
No, they weren't. They really weren't.
But, I think it was totally fair that England, heading into the Six Nations, were in the title conversation. It looks ridiculous now, but it's pretty easy, isn't it, when you've played half the championship and you can see the results.
You go on the facts and what's in front of you. Coming into it, you'd had a great 2025, you'd lost one game, you were in a good place compared to the other nations. So the bookies said so. I think they were second favourites. What an opportunity off the back of finishing second last year to come into this and have a real go. But yeah, we are 3 rounds in, and no, that's not happening.
Well, coming up in just a mo, we'll chat about England's trip to Rome, which I've been flagging since the start of the championship that is a difficult game for England. We should mention Ireland, though, here, Topsy, because for as bad as England were, and England were bad, one of Ireland's great days at Twickenham.
Brilliant. I mean, and you could feel the energy through them every minute. I wasn't sat too far from the coaches, and obviously the rest of the stadium fairly quiet. The Irish fans were having the day of their lives. Every moment.
It's like an Ireland home game.
It was. I mean, I remember even Caelan Doris at the end kind of looking around saying, like, there is so many Irish in there. I mean, they know how to get tickets, right? But yeah, and it was kind of the things that won't make the highlights which were the most impressive. The work in the breakdown, the work in the kick chase, and then obviously, yes, the intent in the tackle, both sides of the ball. Just a really good performance. And England were poor, but Ireland also took advantage of those areas where they were poor, whilst being the best they've been in the tournament so far. So huge credit to them. How they bottle that now and take it into the next fixtures is huge, because their tournament is well and truly alive. Like I say, they need a favour from Scotland to turn over France, and then we take it to a final weekend.
Who knows? I mean, I thought it was a real victory, not just for that team, but for Andy Farrell as well. And to go back to what I said earlier about Farrell's reaction to the defeat on the opening night in France and being pretty punchy, that was totally unacceptable. Just the whole psychology around that game, I thought you looked like an Ireland team that had more desire, more intensity, as you say, just beat England in pretty much every single area. I think that's huge credit to Andy Farrell, not so much from a kind of technical coaching point of view, but from a man management point of view, from the emotional buttons he was able to press on those players. I thought they were excellent. I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. Someone else who deserves credit is Jack Crowley, coming in at fly half, who looked very assured.
Yeah, a lot of talk about that Ireland 10 position. He's finally given the keys in a fixture that obviously on paper ahead of time looked difficult, but just looked very assured, very comfortable. Obviously helps when you have a platform and everything's moving forward, but he kicked really well, he managed the game really well, and that shirt is his now. So big call to make, of course. Sam Prendergast will have a future with the Ireland team, no doubt about that, but I guess with here and now, with what they needed, Crowley was the man to step in, and he's delivered, and fair play to him. Obviously we said starting a lot different coming off the bench when everyone's a bit more fatigued, but no, from minute one he looked very assured, very composed, excellent performance.
So Ireland's next game Friday, they're hosting Wales, Friday kickoff 8:10, and England, as we mentioned already, they travel to Rome. That match happening on Saturday evening. One of the other games, really intriguing match actually, Topsy, Wales 23, Scotland 26. Let me put this to you, right, because for Scotland, they have a big performance against England, right? They get up for England, and the criticism is they never back it up. They never back it up. Did they back it up? Or did they get away with it?
They backed it up because they
knew you were getting
no. They backed it up in the result.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely not in the performance. Yeah. And again, I saw a stat, don't have it to hand, but the amount of games in the Six Nations that they lose after winning the Calcutta Cup, like, it's ridiculous, you know? So, again, that was the question we put to them. The big difference being they got over the line, but man, was it scary. You know, obviously, we were still at Allianz, so debriefing that game, but I think the couple of times I switched on, early in the first half, Wales were up. Late in the second half, Wales were up. You kind of felt going into the last quarter that are Wales hanging on? Are Scotland going to come back in and snatch the victory? They did, but perhaps not in the manner that you thought it was going to go. The quick kickoff, the crocodile roll, was it, wasn't it? Some incidents that Wales would love to have back. If you're going to lose a game, if you're going to lose a game, you don't want to lose it in that fashion. Like, you know, it's almost criminal, almost, in terms of coaches, right? We've just scored, right? Switch on. You hear it at every level of rugby, right? Next job, it's the kickoff, and they're all half asleep. Finn Russell isn't, Darcy Graham isn't, and it turns, you know, momentum. We speak about that so much in terms of rugby, momentum. When you lose it, how do you get it back? That's probably the best example of getting it back. Straight off the kickoff, kick, catch, score. And Wales still searching for that elusive Six Nations win.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. You've got to give credit to Scotland, first of all, for coming back, for getting the win, and for now putting themselves in a position ahead of facing France, where you're looking at it and saying, well, if they could win that at home, then we could be talking about titles. Like, fair play to them. But, and I think for me it was a big but, that was a poor performance. And if you're playing almost any other team in Six Nations history, okay, maybe not a lot of the Italian teams, but they happen to come up against a Wales team, one of the poorest Wales teams that we've ever seen, and so therefore they were able to come back and win it. I thought they got away with it a little bit. Scotland fans are going to be at me in the comments there, but I just think it's...
If they're honest, they'll be...
And they won't care, and neither should they. They shouldn't care. They got the victory. We're giving them credit for that, but the performance I thought was poor, and I didn't think it was a side that we've learned from previous, you know, the previous critiques are such a load of nonsense that we don't back it up. They just about got away with it. Let me ask you about Wales, though, because a lot of the narrative off the back of this game was, wow, what a shot in the arm for Welsh rugby, so positive. And I appreciate that is true, but Topsy, I couldn't help but look at it and think, you should have won. It's a missed opportunity.
And that is it. You look for crumbs of comfort where you can get them, but ultimately, as we've just said about Scotland, if Wales would have played worse than they did and won, you would take that hands down. You just need the result. You need the points on the board. And for Wales, it becomes a question of, you know, what might be? Because they're going to go to Ireland, somewhere where they do not win games, and trying to get one over the line. And then we're talking about, as we did pre-tournament, would the Wales-Italy game be the one that decides who finishes at the bottom? So it's... Again, with where they've been, right, what did we enjoy? There was way more intent. They were just better. They looked like a team that had a game plan, a team that could score points, and a team that could threaten the opposition. Yes, Scotland weren't at the races, but if they're not at the races, go after them. Go and get them. And then those nervy moments at the end where you just need, yes, a bit of luck, but that bit of experience, composure to get yourselves over the line, they didn't have it. So you think, right, time to take stock of where we are. Can we go again? That Ireland fixture is brutal, but is what it is. Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? It is really tough. They need a result. They need a win. Are they going to get it this Friday? I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, yeah, let's come on to that. I think it's going to be difficult. The thing that you would say for Wales, though, is some standout performances, some players that have done a lot of losing at international level with their best performances at international level, and just the stadium looked like it was rocking. The atmosphere looked brilliant. There's going to be a bit of belief. I think I chatted to a friend who didn't actually go to the game but was in Cardiff, kind of went to the pub in Cardiff, went to Cardiff for the day, and said the feeling of people pouring out of the stadium was saying how brilliant it was. Yeah. That's a positive thing.
Yeah,
that's a real positive for Wales. But yeah, it's funny. I couldn't help but look at it and think, man, it's a chance, a real chance of winning.
And that's the one, probably, chance. Like you said, coming out of the stadium, we're like, oh man, we were so much better. We feel better about how things are in Welsh rugby. But like you say, a couple of days later, you're like, we should have won that game. We were up, we should have won.
See, the one game we haven't mentioned so far from round 3, France 33, Italy 8. The final scoreline was relatively one-sided. It was actually a pretty close game for 70 minutes, but France always seemed to have enough. Have you seen anything so far from France that suggests they're not going to win the title and do a Grand Slam?
In a word, no. Easiest question you're going to ask me all pod. Yeah, they just look like they can score at will. Athletes everywhere, the ability to play the game differently, move the ball quicker, attack in a variety of different ways that the other teams haven't shown to that consistent level. They haven't really been tested. They haven't been pushed to kind of gears 4, 5 and 6. So it'd be interesting to see if that happens in the last 2 games. But I guess that just tells you where they are at the minute. They've not needed to be pushed because when they've had the ball, they've racked up points. They've had to defend less. And when they have had to defend, they've been pretty accurate. So all systems go. Things looking good. They've got great depth of players. You know, they've had to rotate their centres, and whoever comes in next has just been the next guy and says, what do you need me to do? I'll go on and do it. Louis Bielbiarri just continues to score tries. They lose Jalibert. Ramos comes in, and it's like, you know, doesn't matter who's wearing the shirt. We just keep motoring. The only thing you would say is that actually in the second half, Italy kept them scoreless for a long time, and it wasn't until the Liner yellow card that they got the final 2 tries to finish with a flourish. So there'll be something in that third quarter where if you're analysing them, saying there is an opportunity to kind of catch them cold, catch them in a bit of a lull, and that's our opportunity to strike. And then if you put them under a bit of pressure, what happens there? I think Italy had opportunities that they didn't take. Their set piece, scrum was okay, line out wasn't. So they didn't do themselves any favour there. They were unlucky with the first France try, in that it was a kick to contest, which France picked up the scraps and ended up scoring. So tested them, but not to the point where it mattered on the scoreboard.
You mentioned France and the tries they're scoring, and we spoke earlier about 22 entries. Have you seen the stat doing the rounds about teams 22 entries, and actually France aren't necessarily the highest on there because they're scoring so many tries from like halfway where they're line breaking, they're offloading, and then they're just away and causing chaos.
Yeah, they're just in and they score.
Yeah.
They don't worry about, we don't need phases, just go and score and then do it again.
They look the most comfortable, don't they, with ball in hand at the moment, which I think is often a sign of a team full of confidence, and also that it's just well oiled, and like they're brave enough to try things are coming off. They've got so many game breakers and players that can hurt you. I agree. I think France look really, really impressive. I'll tell you what, let's throw it forward just a little bit to the games this weekend, because we'll mention Italy a bit more when we come on to them against England. Can we stay on France though? And to producer Dan, I'm kind of torching his running order here, so I can only apologise to him. But let's start. I mean, look, Scotland-France is the biggest game this weekend, so let's start there, Topsy, even though it's not the Friday night game. Saturday, 2:10, Scotland against France, Murrayfield. I mean, we say it every weekend, don't we? But it's championship defining potentially. This is, a lot of people, I think, would argue at the moment, the last chance or the last game they could see France losing, because I don't think people would give England much of a hope at the moment in Paris, even though we know England are a team of good players, but based upon their performances. Would you go along with that? Do you think this is the final match that could scup France's Grand Slam aspirations?
Yeah, right here, right now, yes, because you have to just go on previous history and form coming into this round. It's a huge fixture, and actually it's an opportunity for Scotland, because we just spoke about France not having really been pushed. You know, they've had 2 games at home in environments that suit them. Their one away game has been to Cardiff to go and take on Wales, and Wales were still in that spot where they were struggling, so they won comfortably. So if Scotland are able to go through the gears, really push them, use that atmosphere, the intensity of Murrayfield, and ruffle some feathers early, they could make it really uncomfortable and actually ask them a question that hasn't been asked in the tournament yet, is, are you going to win this at a canter, or are you actually going to have to be made to fight to win it? That
is the point that I keep coming back to. I think you're absolutely bang on to raise that and highlight it earlier. France have been brilliant, but they haven't been put in a position where there's real uncertainty over the result heading into the closing stages. And some people might come back at me and say, well, hang on, the Italy game was quite close on 70, but as you say, the line of yellow card, I felt anyway that France were always going to get that victory. Could they be put in a position away from home at Murrayfield? Can it be bouncing like it was for the England game, where Scotland have their tails up, the wind's in their sails, all of that stuff, and then do France have the answers? Now, probably yes. We think they probably do, because they're a quality side, but they haven't been tested in that way, and that's why I look at this game and I'm so intrigued by it, and why, despite the fact that France have looked so good, I think you can build a case that, who knows, maybe on any given Saturday, as we've seen.
Absolutely. I was like, everything you've just said is what I hope Scotland are saying. This is the atmosphere and the environment that we need to create. France have had it all their own way. They haven't been pushed around. They haven't been tested. Their pack is athletic, but they haven't been moved left and right. Haven't been tested in the set piece. apiece. So actually, if you're Scotland, yes, they didn't play well against Wales, but they won. And last time they were at home, they were exceptional. So actually, can we bottle up that feeling and take it into this weekend and really put France in a place where they've not been before and get them to answer these questions? Now, we believe that they can, but we don't know. Just as we've talked about all the other teams, what we believe they can do, you look at their teams, look at the pedigree, but until you're out there in the fire, you just don't know what the reaction is going to be. So that's where Scotland need to take it to, and that's the exciting bit about this game. It's a huge fixture.
Yeah, no, I can't wait for it. Really devilish question for you on Scotland-France. I asked people this earlier. So you know that one of the two things that are thrown at Scotland the most is A, they never get to the final round of the Six Nations with a shot of winning the title, and B, their recent record against Ireland is absolutely terrible. If you could only offer Scotland one, what would they take? Would they take beating France this weekend, which means they go into the final weekend with a chance at the title, but then they lose to Ireland? Or would they take beating Ireland, getting that kind of that unwanted history off, and also winning a triple crown in the process, but it means they'd lose to France, which is a total hypothetical, but I quite enjoy it. What do you reckon?
You enjoy it? Option one, beat France.
Yeah, most people say that.
Yeah, because at least, you know, if it goes that way, let's say it goes that way, you are in that game knowing that we can go after the championship. Everything that we've wanted for years is now in front of us. And obviously you just have to go and fight against the weight of history, which says Scotland don't beat Ireland. But you'd rather be in that position than not. You know, it's all because then you're saying, oh, if only we'd beaten France, if only we'd done this, done that. So, yeah, beat France if you lose to Ireland, but...
The crazy thing about Scotland's Six Nations is they could get to the end of it and think, oh, if only we beat Italy. Like, they could win their final two games, and it'll be the Italian game.
It's the tournament. This is what it's done. It's done since
know.
week one. You know, it's kind of thrown up the scenarios which we can play around with, and you'll look back to certain moments. You know, yes, you know, Scotland, if it comes to it, week one, we were so poor in that first half. We didn't deal well with the condition in the second half. It could be that, you know, it could be something from this France game where maybe they win, but they don't get a bonus point, or they let France get a losing bonus point that means that France win the title by a point. Like, all that sort of stuff will start to play into it. So, yeah, if you're tuning in, anything can happen, as it has done already. So just sit back and enjoy.
We've seen that every weekend. Italy-England, the final game of the weekend. How big a week, Topsy, is this for England and for Steve Borthwick, the head coach?
It's huge. It really is, because you need to answer some tough questions that have been asked after the losses in the last two games to Scotland and Ireland. You absolutely have to win the game, but also you need to look at, I guess, the options you have in your team as well, and where things haven't gone wrong. Is it a coaching thing? Is it a personnel-driven thing? So the balance of your team to make sure that you get the right result so that you go into that France game with huge momentum, it is huge. So, and actually, yeah, for the first time ever, this isn't as straightforward as England are going to win and move on to the next. I mean, it's a genuine 50-50, which is so weird to say, especially to my point earlier that Italy have lost two games, but yet you still feel weirdly positive about what they're building because they are in a much better place. So difficult to call. Do I think England will get there? Yes. Is it going to be supremely uncomfortable? Yes. Are the crowd going to be raucous? Yes. So, I mean...
all the good stuff.
All the good stuff. It's not going to be an enjoyable watch, but... Like I say, if you're England, what an opportunity. Actually, what a challenge. You know, there's huge amounts of pressure, but... Is it a great place to be in? I guess that's the question for the players. But you'd almost say if you can embrace situations like this, you know, everybody's saying this, that about us now. What an opportunity. Just go to Rome, bonus point. Not obviously don't get ahead of yourself, but if you could fast forward, bonus point win, away from home, just, all right, we're okay. Yes, the losses weren't great, but we're all right.
I mean, it could just go one of two ways, can't it? And I agree. I think Italy are a really good side.
What's the other way?
But it could go one of two ways, right? Which is, you're right. If England have embraced it and put to bed all, like, really kind of address the issues in their game, they go to Italy, they could well get the job done. But if they were to lose to Italy, if they were the first England team to lose to Italy,
oh gosh,
off the back of the two performances we've seen, it's you know, it's people calling for coaches to get sacked, and it's really, really. So that's why I think it's such a big game this for England.
Yeah,
such a big game, even though the Championship is gone, and really intriguing. And look, by the time people listen or watch this, then the team news may well be out. We're expecting big changes from Steve Borthwick. He's not a reactionary, knee-jerk coach, but I think that says a lot, doesn't it, about where England find themselves if we are going to see wholesale changes in the backline.
Yeah, and it's a big thing coming to this game. You look at the areas where they've been short. Line out didn't function very well, so do you need another option in the back row that gives you extra line out option but also more punch in the carry and defensively? You look at the backs, right? I mean, there's a case to maybe change all of them, but actually you can't risk making too many up changes that disrupts flow and puts the game in jeopardy. You have to change scrum half because Mitchell is out. You know that Ollie Lawrence is unavailable, so he's out. The fact that Freddie Stewart was hooked before half-time, I mean, I'd be amazed to see him in the team. So there's 3 changes guaranteed already. So are you then making 4, 5, 6 changes? Borthwick's history says probably not. So that's where you are with that. But who knows? We've seen you could see 6 changes and then you go, right, okay, are these guys going to click? And the issue that England have had, you look at the opening quarters in the first 2 games, if they are slow starters and that Rome crowd are behind their players, you saw what happened to Scotland in round 1. If that's a similar situation, then all bets are off and who knows how the game plays out. So hugely pressured game, lots riding on it, but again, embrace it. What an opportunity, what an occasion to be involved in.
Yeah, what an opportunity for Italy as well. They could get their first ever victory over England. So that's the Saturday rugby. What a day of rugby on Saturday, by the way. It starts, though, on Friday, Ireland-Wales. Should we do some score predictions, Topsy? This is where we make fools of ourselves and get everything horribly wrong. But Ireland-Wales, what are you going for score prediction here?
Yeah, why break a weekly tradition? Ireland 32, Wales 12.
Okay, I'm going to go higher. I'm going to go Ireland 52, Wales 10.
Okay, sorry, Wales.
Let's stick my neck on the block for that one. Scotland, France. Are Scotland going to throw the cat amongst the pigeons ahead of the final weekend?
Yes, I'm trying to manifest these things.
Okay, nice.
See, I'm going to go Scotland 27. France 26.
Oh, I was just thinking 27-25. Scotland, as you were saying that.
Fair play.
So let's go with that. Italy, England. Redemption, or some form of redemption for England, or one of Italy's greatest days?
Redemption. I'm going to go England 33, Italy 23.
33. I think we're going to see a real stinker of a game for some reason. I don't know.
Really?
Well, that's my gut instinct. So I'm going to say England get the job done, but like 18-12 or something like that.
Hang on. We're not expecting some sort of deluge to come in, are we?
No, not the opening weekend. I actually haven't checked the weather forecast, but I don't think so. It's basically spring now, isn't it? Come on.
Yeah, let's hope so. Anyway, for us heading out there, that would be nice.
Topsy, see you in Rome.
See you in Rome.
You heading out there Friday?
Heading out there Friday. A tiny bit of downtime in the evening, but then all systems go for Saturday. So fingers, toes, everything crossed for a great weekend. And yeah. I can't wait for the next pod already because, I mean, we've done our predictions. We think we know what's going to happen, but as we've seen in the tournament already, it's just going to rip it all up and say, nah.
I think we're going to have to start getting difficult soon and refusing to do predictions because it just sets you up to be absolutely shot at. But look forward to it. See you in Rome. I'm going to be out there for doing updates for talkSPORT as well. So, yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be a good weekend regardless of the action on the pitch. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Top man, Topsy. That is it then for today. Make sure you tune in once again tomorrow for another talkSPORT Daily. And myself and Topsy will be back with you the same time next week as we look back on round 4 and tee up Super Saturday and the end of the Six Nations. It is already almost over. Appreciate you listening, appreciate you watching. See you next time.